Hi, everyone. My name is Abby Bangzer, and I'm an engineer here at Syntasso, building Syntasso Kratix Enterprise, also known as SKE. I want to show you what the experience is to manage a platform that's been built by SKE, which can show you how you can create a platform which is both maintainable and scalable, and that creates that self-service, on-demand experience while enabling fleet management and completely customized to your business, incorporating all your business requirements. To do that, I want to first put on the hat of an application developer, someone who's actually using your platform to create something that they need. In the experience of an application developer, I may need to create an application that depends on a database, maybe a bucket as well. And if I need to do that, I might come to your platform and ask to create something. Here I am in a user interface created by Backstage. This is a portal example, but the key here is that the portal or any interface, such as an IDE or a chatbot or an LLM, are all just interfaces into a single codified platform. So this Backstage has been populated by what is available in the platform created by SKE. These are the different resources available to me as a user, and I can see that database is one of them. So I can come down and I can choose that database. Now, if I want to create a database for myself, I can create an Abby database and I can tell it that it's going to be in the backend team. So that makes sure that the right permissions and everything else gets set. Once I come through to specification, this has been custom built by my platform providers, by the people who know about databases at my organization, and we've created a contract which is the right fit for my organization. What do I, as an application developer, want to be able to edit and change? And what do I understand? And what am I even allowed to by the platform? So you can see here that I'm able to turn on backups or not. I can choose a life cycle. I can change the name of the database. You can see some things that aren't here. So for example, encryption, for example, the version even, these are things that are going to be managed completely by the provider of this database. And that is the contract that's been set up and it's completely configurable by the organization. So if I keep all the same defaults here and I create a dev database, I can review and create, my job as a user has been done. But as a creator of the platform, you may be curious what's happening. So I can switch to a different interface, which is for the creators and managers of the platform, and see that a lot of things are happening off the back of that request for a database. That's because the SKE framework has kicked into motion and it is now applying all the requirements that have been set by your team that manages databases to make sure that things are done correctly. And I can see here that a job for configure was completed. This job was already completed 30 seconds ago, and it is where you codified all of the requirements to create that database. And that includes things like infrastructure and configuration as code, but it also includes things like processes. So whether that mean making sure to audit this in a certain way, making sure to scan it for security issues in a certain way, maybe making sure to alert people in a certain way. All of that can be done from within this workflow. With the workflow complete, I, as the application developer, putting that hat back on, switch back to my view, and I can see that inside of my resources, I now have an Abby database. This Abby database provides me with the information I need to be able to use this database in practice. So I have information like the host name, where to find the username and password, whether that be just in Kubernetes or whether that be in Vault or a cloud provider, wherever it might be. I also have some more information provided to me, like how big the database is and what version it is. All of this information is configurable again by the providers of the database for what your users need to see and what they don't. The key here is that I, as an application developer, still have ownership over the parts of this database that I know and care about. So I, with the Syntasso Kratix Enterprise plugin, am able to manage my database right here in Backstage. And again, this can be done in any interface, any portal that we integrate with, or otherwise, and LLMs and so on. From here, unlike a traditional Backstage where it's just a view only, you can actually go in, you can delete, and you can edit editable fields, for example, adding in a backup. If I make an edit to this as an application developer, I, once again, am just alerting the platform to a new requirement. And actually, everything gets done in exactly the same way. The platform is alerted, it starts kicking into action, making sure that the platform is actually reflective of what the application developer requests and needs, allowing for this database to now, when I go back and look at the resources again, to actually tell me that it is now backups enabled. So as I do these updates, I'm able to see those get reflected in the platform as quickly as the automation allows it to be done. Now, I, as an application developer, might be able to use this database because I have a host, I have credentials, I have all of these things. But I also now need to manually take those information and I need to bring them back to my platform. And so that might be frustrating to have to coordinate between the database and the application. And so with any good platform, you should be able to compose up a higher level abstraction that allows for the platform to take on that heavy lifting of configuration across components. And the same can be done in Syntasso Kratix Enterprise. So here we are, we've got our low level concepts of like buckets and deployments and databases. But we also have a higher level concept of an application, which creates one of each of these types of resources. So if I choose to create an application, this time let's call it a demo application, and once again, I want it in the backend name, I can go in and I can decide, yes, I do want a database for this. And yes, I actually do want a bucket as well. So you can see here that the database is only a yes, no request. It doesn't have that information around backups anymore or any other fields because at this level of abstraction, the platform providers have decided to further reduce the complexity for the user. But once again, this is completely configurable to your organization and you can add any details that you might need when you want to increase them. One option here is for dev or production. Now, the platform might be told to treat dev and production differently, more so than just where is the infrastructure deployed, but also how is it treated. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this in production this time around and see what happens when someone wants to create something in production, which may have higher levels of security. So I'm going to review this request. I'm going to create it. And I'm going to return to that backend view. So here I am in the backend view, and I can see that we are going to have created a job to be able to configure the application. So if I do the demo app, I can see a job for configure. Just like the previous job, it's run Kubernetes native. All of your Kubernetes debugging skills can be applied here. But we can see that it's being paused at the second container in the job. Well, this could be the demo gods frowning upon me, but actually what's happening here is that we can go in and we can look at the logs and we can see that we have a wait for approval step. So this wait for approval step is actually saying, hang on, you're asking for something in production. For this, we need a manual approval. And I know that we want everything to be automated, we want everything to be immediate, but we also work with very large organizations in regulated environments, and we know that that isn't always possible. So rather than you having to work around your platform, we built Kratix to support even the most gnarly of experiences. So when I go into this demo or this issues approvals, repository in GitHub, I can see that a new request has been made a minute ago, and it provides me the information I need as an approver to be able to decide if this is acceptable. I've decided that it is, so I can approve this and close it, which will immediately alert the platform that it's been approved, which will come on down into the job and it will continue the job along. So this job will now go along and it will continue to create all of the resources associated with this app and make sure that they are configured together correctly. The interesting part about that is this isn't redefining what it means to create resources in your organization. It's not saying that to create a database in one way is going to be different than creating a database when used directly by an application. So if we go on back to that main view, we can see that with that request for a application being completed, I can now see requests for deployments, for buckets, for databases, all coming and streaming through the platform. That's because that one single app has now fanned out to requests for the sub resources it depends on, making sure that each is configured to speak to the other. With each of those being run, I can put back on that application developer hat, and I can come on through, I can look at my resources, and I can see that I now have a demo application here, which also comes with a bucket, a database, and a deployment. So each of these resources has now been created and tied together effectively. The interesting part about what happens by making all of these in the same way is that this Abby database and this demo database have been created in the same way, meaning they can also be managed in the same way. So when I have a fleet of databases that all need upgrading, I'm able to do that effectively. So if I switch tabs here to the platform engineers view and I go to the Kratix tab, I'm going to now be able to investigate all of the databases associated with my platform. And when I scroll down, I can see that we have a number of resources that have been created by this higher level concept of a promise database, including the Abby one I originally created, the demo one that I created as a part of the app, and a couple of others that are running on the platform. I can also see that they're running on version 14.17. And I, as a platform engineer who's in charge of the database versions in my platform, know that version 14.17 has a bit of a CVE in it. And I need to make sure that this gets updated with immediately to make sure that the CVE doesn't go on to affect the business. In many organizations, this would mean trying to figure out where the database is being created, where it has been created, who is in charge of the configuration of it, how we can configure it, with maybe 80% of them being in an automated way in one way or another, but 20% needing sort of wrangling, talking to different teams, writing different automation, and so on. Since everything has been created through the platform, I can now actually update this in one go. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the terminal here, and I'm going to run a Kubernetes apply of an updated promise configuration, where this configuration is now setting the version from 14.17 to 14.18. So I go back to my main page. Again, I can see that everything is being sort of flown through the system, managed by the framework, and we are updating all of the databases to match this new requirement associated with the platform. As these start to run and start to get completed, eventually what's going to happen is all of these databases are going to be getting into this job completed stage. And I'm going to be able to go back to the Kratix view, go back to the database view, and be able to see that everything is now in version 14.18. So all the databases, whether they were created directly from the platform, from a user interface like Backstage, whether they were created from a higher level abstraction like an app, or directly, have all been treated as a single instance. There are all sorts of ways for you to control this, including making sure that you only update a certain region or a certain environment before you go on to update others once that's successful. But the key here is that you have centralized control when you need it in order to update your platform in your way. So with Syntasso Kratix Enterprise, you as a platform team are supported to build the platform your organization demands and create the experiences that are bespoke and custom to your users, rather than being shoehorned into a single user experience type or a single interface type. If you want to hear more about how Syntasso Kratix Enterprise can support you and your organization of any size or scale, and what interfaces we can help support for you, please reach out and we'd love to talk to you further. Thank you so much.